May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Cuke Audio Podcast. I'm DC, Poobah of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, doing our bit to help preserve the legacy of Shunryu Suzuki and those whose paths cross his, and anything else that comes to mind. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable, free from economic hardship, and able to get out and do whatever it is you want within the limitations of the universal precept of do as little harm as possible. So today we have a guest, Ricol Provasoli. Ricol first came to the San Francisco Zen Center on Bush Street in 1967 to visit his brother Paul Provasoli and spent some time at Tassajara. And then his path took many twists and turns and went various interesting places. And I think you'll enjoy following them and see where he ended up. Now, Ricol has a website, Ricol Provasoli, RICOProvasoli.me. And you can see there about the two books he's written, Please Don't Tell My Guru, and Golf Between the Ears. So as soon as we've had our pause to meditate, we'll give Ricol a call. So when you hear the bell, if you're of such a mind, hit pause and meditate or whatever for as long as you wish. And when you're ready to come back, hit unpause. And we'll be here to hit the bell to end the meditation or whatever and give Ricol Provasoli a call.
Yeah.
Ricol, David Chadwick.
Who?
David Chadwick.
David Chadwick. It says your call's coming from Indonesia.
Well, I live in Bali.
Ah. Well, that makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
Hey, David, I thought you lived in Marin or something.
I have lived a great deal in Marin and in Sonoma and in San Francisco and Monterey County.
Huh.
But last 10 years, I've been here in Bali.
God, you know how to live.
Well,
it's great.
It's nice there. We like it there, too. But can't afford it. So, hey, Ricol, can we talk now for a podcast?
Oh, yeah, sure. I'd like to.
Good. Well, I'm already recording you.
Can you hear me okay? I put you on speakerphone.
Yeah, it's all right. Let me hear more.
Or if you want, I could put on some headphones.
That's better.
Hold on. I've got an idea. Let's.
Hey, this sounds good. This sounds good right now.
Okay.
Yeah, you can. You might feel more free with headphones, but
this is fine. This is great.
Yeah, you're coming across fine. All right. Well, so hey, Ricol, what are you up to?
Well, what am I up to? On an existential level, an emotional level, or a neurological level, or I'm just kidding. No, everything is fine. I'm turning 76 very shortly. I've survived the widowmaker that nobody ever does, collapse at the hospital front door, and they kept me. I was clinically dead for 7 hours, where they gave me a new plumbing, all the coronary arteries.
Wow.
So I'm going strong, and I've got a pretty good-sized property here in Marin. And I had wind damage, and I just finished a 60-foot fence there, and then I had water damage on a external cottage, and I'm just finished putting siding on that. So I stay busy.
Wow. Hey, when did you have this very serious health problem?
December 6, 2018, I dropped on the front door of the hospital.
Which hospital?
So I'm Kaiser San Rafael.
Yeah, I have had Kaiser in San Rafael, mainly in Sonoma. I had it. Well, hey, I'm glad that worked out. That's pretty serious.
No, really, it's like.
Yeah.
No, they say I had the widowmaker, and nobody ever survives that. I just happened to collapse at the front door. Huh?
You mean you were just walking by?
No, I wanted to go get a checkup because the day before I'd been out hiking, and I had some symptoms that were kind of alarming. But I said, well, I'll go in the next day. And so I went in the next day, and I collapsed at the front door. So I guess my guardians were taking care of me.
Yeah. All right. Well, property in Marin, that's pretty good.
Well, I'm a renter. I've been 22 years at the same property for like a 75% discounted rent because I maintain the property for the elderly property owner.
Wow.
So
that's
great.
Fact,
it's great. It's like my rent is what just about what the property tax would pay for.
Oh, that's terrific.
So the guardians are watching over me again.
Yeah. Well, so we know each other because of the San Francisco Zen Center and our various connections. And I'd like to hear about that, but anything. Tell me, where were you born?
Massachusetts, near Boston.
And
so
yeah.
My older brother, who you knew, Paul Provasoli, I believe you knew Paul, right?
Yeah, sure.
I think it was 1965. He started training at the San Francisco Zen Center. And then I was in college near Boston, and in December 66 or 67, I made a road trip, and I wrote to him saying my twin brother and I were going to come out and see him and start to learn about Zen. So he never got the letter, and when we arrived at the Zen Center, they told us, sorry, nobody's here because everybody's down on a winter sesshin in Tassajara. So we got some basic instruction from a elderly Japanese lady who maybe it was even Suzuki Roshi's wife, could be maybe.
I don't know who else it would be.
But her English was limited, and we didn't know what to do. And so, it was kind of an awkward, but we ended up going across the bay to Berkeley and spent, I think, 10 days in a meditation training with, I don't know how to say his name, Eknath Eswaran, the famous Advaita meditation teacher.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah. So, but then I spent 6 months in a Trappist monastery in France, and then I spent 6 months at an ashram in India, and I spent 4 months at a Zen Buddhist monastery temple in Beppu, Japan.
Oh, wait a minute. uh, you, all right. Now you're just sort of outlining some stuff that happened over a period of years, right?
Yes, right.
Well, let's go back to you're in San Francisco, and we'll get there. We'll get to Beppu. I know where you were in Beppu, and so you were in the Bay Area. Did you see Paul?
No, because everybody. I was in college. I had to get back to school, but everybody was. There was no. This is 1966, I think.
Yeah.
There's no way to contact anybody down in Tassajara.
No.
Never got the letter. Or,
no, it wasn't.
So
it wasn't 66.
we never.
It was
maybe 67.
It had to be 67 because we didn't move into Tassajara until January of 67.
Yeah. So it was. I think probably December 6th. Maybe 6. Could have been. But anyway, I'm a little fuzzy on the dates, but it was just wonderful to come to San Francisco. It was just past the summer of love, and people were very, very friendly.
Yeah,
extremely friendly and open. And so I think we were here for like 10 or 11 days, and then we took a jet back to Boston, and it was a great introduction to. It was a great introduction in learning to love what is. Not causing myself to suffer because Paul didn't get my letter and we didn't get to meet him.
Well, so you're back in Boston and in school, right?
Yep.
What school?
Holy Cross College.
Yeah. Where? In Boston?
In Worcester, not far from Boston, maybe 40 miles up the road from Boston.
Yeah. All right. So, so what happened next?
Well, then I went to Europe on a junior year abroad, and didn't like being. It was like in Grenoble, University of Grenoble, and I was in the Faculté des Lettres, and so I was just such a big, wide world, especially. I was 19 or 20 years old, and all of a sudden, I had to. My mother was furious, and I got cut off, and so I was sweeping floors in a department store from 6 p.m. to midnight just to eat. And I came home one night, and there was a letter offering me a job on the ski patrol in the famous ski resort L'Alpe d'Huez. So I passed the interview, both because they needed they needed bilingual English-speaking, French-speaking people on the slopes because they had a lot of Europeans who only spoke English. So 4 months, I skied my heart out, and then I went from there to a Trappist monastery.
Oh, wow. You went to a Trappist monastery where?
In France.
Wow. And how long were you there?
6 months. 6 months there. Yeah, it was quite a...
How was
And that was up in... well, it was really a stretch because I was raised in a loudmouth Italian family, and then to be silent for 6 months was quite a U-turn.
Wow, that is cool. Good for you. What led you?
Really?
Where on earth did you get that idea? That's really unusual.
Well, I can't tell you. All I know is I couldn't put my finger on it, but I was a child of the '60s and drug, sex, and rock and rolls, and it didn't. I mean, I had every advantage a guy could ask for, and nothing quite hit home. And there I spent 4 months on top of the world, literally skiing near Mont Blanc, and the best snow in the world, the most beautiful women in the world, the best wine in the world, and it just didn't do it for me. And so a friend of a friend said, hey, there's a confessor at this monastery, and his name is Père Guillaume, Father William. And it took 7 years to get an appointment to see him to do a retreat for a week. And I wrote a letter to him in French, and he said, "I don't know who you are, but I want to see you." And so immediately they said, come here right away. And every morning I got to have a meeting with him. And it's not like in the Catholic tradition, in the mystic Catholic tradition, it's not like a confessor isn't someone you tell your sins to. He's sort of a spiritual guide, spiritual counselor. So, but his title was confessor. So, anyway, after months of meeting him, he said, Rico, there's no doubt in my mind that you have a religious vocation, but it's not like one I've ever seen before. And I can close my eyes and be there again. And again, I'm probably 21 maybe. And he just said, everybody that I counsel to follow a vocation, it's a very well-marked highway with stops here and there, and we know where it's going. But with you, I have absolutely no doubt that you have an authentic calling, but it's not a path that's ever been made before. So just go for it and be honest with yourself and know that you are blessed. So then I would, it's not like I was bipolar, but I would do 6 months at a monastery, and then I'd go skiing for 6 months, and then I went to Mexico for 6 months to go to the University of the Americas.
Yeah, I went there.
Really?
Yeah.
In Caritas Toluca 37. What's the address?
That's after it moved.
Maybe you went to the new campus in Pueblo.
No. Oh, no, I was there in 65. So it was just right outside of Mexico City.
Yeah, that's the same school. The University of the Americas. Yeah, that was the one.
Yeah. Oh, I
was there in 1969, 70, I think.
I was just there a little. I was there for 2 quarters, and mainly I smoked pot and screwed around.
Exactly, because again, so I would go into class, and it was a big continent just begging me to be adventured through. So I had an old truck, and it got me. I know more parts of Mexico than any Mexican does. I went everywhere. I never went to class. And I had a student visa, and it was great. And I got guns shot at me. This is not a joke. I did. I had the federales shooting their rifles at me one night, and I lived to tell the tale.
Why? Yeah. All right. They were shooting at you. Why were they shooting at you?
Well, this is the days of Carlos Castaneda, and some guy I knew in the lunchroom said he knew a bruja who was associated with Carlos Castaneda in some valley down the other side of Oaxaca, the village of Oaxaca.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what the name of that valley is anymore. It's got to be 55 years ago or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was with 2 guys to help with gas money and take turns driving, and we got to this road where we had to leave the village of Oaxaca to get down to this valley, and there was a roadblock by the federales because Nixon had made a deal with the president of Mexico to close the area off, no more peyote and religious ceremonies for American kids. So the federales kept this roadblock up to keep kids out. If you're a Mexican farmer or something, you go ahead. It's wide open to you. But so we waited till the federales were kind of dozing, and I had a massive, heavy-duty grill built on the front of this truck, and I just floored it and mashed through the roadblock, and all of a sudden we had 7 or 10 rifle shots happening, ding, ding, and hitting the mirrors and bouncing off the metal, and ooh, that was pretty exciting, I'll tell you.
Wow. All right. And so did you take peyote?
Well, it was, yeah, but it wasn't just straight peyote. I can't remember, but it was like peyote, and it was like a gruel that this old hag made. And she wouldn't take any money, but she said when you're leaving, if you make a donation to an orphanage up in Oaxaca. It was really, it was a real deal. It wasn't like a money mill or something, right?
Yeah.
And I think there were 3 of us, and at dawn, so we got there. We got there at dawn, and it was like a ceremony.
Yeah.
And I can remember vomiting and hurling for the longest time, and then finally having a would you call it a transcendent experience? I don't know, but there was a big sense of unity.
Mm-hmm.
But it cured me of wanting to go to drugs to find the answer of what I was hankering for.
Now, when you say drugs, what drugs are you talking about?
Well, psychedelics especially.
Yeah. All right.
I experimented with the basics like every kid did in the 60s, but it wasn't, I just knew in my heart of hearts it wasn't for me. Although, I was a freshman in college, and my brother Paul was invited me to come see Ram Dass, who was then Richard Alpert, up in Amherst Valley. And I think that's what changed my life. I spent 5 or 6 hours with Dr. Richard Alpert, with maybe 6 or 7 grad students up in the Amherst Valley. And he was still wearing tweeds and a necktie and horn-rimmed glasses. But the way he moved and the way he spoke and what he had to say cracked the foundation of everything I believed to be true.
Mm.
Literally, truly, no exaggeration.
Mm.
And so he was still one of the high priests of LSD, and of course I took some a couple times, but I realized I don't think so. I don't think this is the way.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. So that's pretty cool. All right. So we're back in Mexico. What happened then?
Well, I think that was on a Sunday morning when we had the sacrament. And then the old lady said, listen, all the farmers are going to be coming in and out of that roadblock on Sunday afternoon because they've all come to the markets. There's going to be a huge chaos of confusion. And I want you to just go down to the riverbed and cover your truck with mud so the soldiers won't recognize it. And we came back up the road, and there was like a very busy chaos because they had opened it up for all the peasants to come in and out of the village, and we got out of it alive.
Uh-huh. All right.
Went back to Mexico City and waited for the next adventure.
Well, keep going.
Well, the next adventure found me in jail in Belize.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, one of the guys I was friendly with at the schools said his dad was buying a 60-foot sailing yacht in the capital city of Belize. Then it was, in those days, I think it was called the British Honduras.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
yeah, that's right.
It was the British Honduras. And so, I got him and another, so we're 3 crew, to help the guy sail a boat on sea trials. And, we got to the border of Mexico, British Honduras, and they wanted $500 cash deposit for our truck, which of course you'd never see again. So we said, I don't think so. And so we parked the truck with the Mexican authorities just 50 feet away and took a bus up to Chetumal, the last town on the Caribbean shore of Mexico, and found a questionable pirate kind of guy to sail us down to the capital in a leaky old sailboat. And, you know, as a old guy right now, and I think back, I says, what were we thinking, taking a boat? There was nothing. There was no radio. There was no electronics. And this guy looked pretty shady. And so here's 3 American guys. And we set off. I think it was like 75, 80 miles down the coast to get to the capital. And so we sailed 2 or 3 days. And
2 or 3 days to go 75 or 80 miles?
Yeah, well, yeah, because a lot of the time the wind was in your face or there was no wind at all. And the guy had a very sketchy outboard motor to kick him along. It's only like a 25, 26 little sailboat. And so we ended up going onto a little island in the Key, what they call the Keys. And so the guy says, come on, we're going to have a great breakfast. And you can probably there was a well on this little piece of land, and you can bathe and clean yourself, and it sounded like heaven. So this old lady is making us huevos rancheros and coffee from heaven. And all of a sudden, I had a gun put to my head. And the military police there said that the guy that brought us there was a known smuggler, and that he was smuggling us illegally into the country. I said, no, pal, you got it wrong. We're stupid American kids coming down to sail a boat. But this guy said, no, we've caught you red-handed. You don't have an immigration visa to enter our country. And I said, what country are we in? We didn't know what we changed countries. So the guy marched us to jail. No joke. So it's pretty frightening, actually. We got out. So.
Wait a minute. You got out. How did you get out? So,
do you know when Bobby Kennedy was assassinated? What year that was?
Because I think that was 68, but I'll tell you in a second.
Doesn't matter. Anyway, the deal is, and there are no facilities, and we have to, do our use bucket in our evolution, so to speak. And finally, I say, man, we're going to die if you don't let us get out here and use the latrine outside, wash us. There's no way. We can't get off the island. So he finally allowed us to have a little dignity with our toilet function. And I saw he was studying this magazine, and he was open to the story of the Robert Kennedy assassination. And there was a picture of the family at the Cape Cod, what's it called? Hyannisport compound. Yeah. And so all of a sudden I had an idea. One of the guys with us was traveling. His father was a diplomat in the Foreign Service, and he looked a little bit like Irish Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
And so you know what I'm going to say?
No, I don't.
I'm going to say, listen. Well, so I just said to my buddies, listen, you're going to be one of the Kennedys, and this is you in the picture kneeling next to your cousin Caroline Kennedy, and we got to sell this to the guy, otherwise we're going to rot in jail. And he said, what? Nobody would believe that story. I said, it's the only chance we have. So I spoke some Spanish, and the guy spoke some English, and I convinced him that his career was shot if it turns out he didn't let the Kennedys go.
Ah,
And I sold it. He bought it. An hour later, we were free.
Bobby Kennedy was assassinated on June 6th, 1968.
Yeah. So this is like a year later or something. Maybe 69. But the guy, he had an old magazine that he was reading to study English, I guess. And
Well, so what happened next?
Well, we got out and the guy let us go. He let us go. He was convinced that we were telling the truth, and he had a Kennedy locked up.
Yeah. But what happened after that?
Oh, we got back to Mexico, and then then I meet a guy in the lunchroom at University of the Americas, and he was recently administrator for the Outward Bound schools.
Mm-hmm.
It's the outdoor survival programs.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Do you know how to sail?" I said, "Well, I just came off a sailboat trip." I mean, just like the next day after surviving this, I run into this guy. And he said, "You're the perfect guy." So he got me a job up at the Hurricane Island School in Maine. And one thing led to another, and there you go. And Bob's your uncle, and I got married and had kids. And
oh, wow.
Yep.
Keep going.
Well, let's see what to say.
Well,
So I went to chiropractic school for 4 years in Iowa.
Oh.
And had a beautiful, had a 250-year-old sea captain's home in Wiscasset, Maine. View of the ocean, beautiful sailboat, lovely kids, lovely wife. And I was very unhappy. Just, again, I felt like, where's the payoff? I had worked so hard. I'd worked 6 years to get to this place. And my brother said, "You have to come down to Boston and do the S training with Werner Erhard." And that cracked something open.
Your twin brother. Your twin brother said that.
Yeah, because he had just done it. So everybody had to do S after that. So. But it was very helpful. And then I think it was like 2 weekends, 2 Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, and I ended up in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I was walking down. I can remember it was Huron Avenue, a few blocks away from Harvard Square, and I'm walking down the street, and I see this. I'm still kind of processing all the cracks in the foundation of my belief system. And I come across this window, and there's just a piece of velvet fabric in the whole storefront of the window. And it was a picture of a guy's eyes. I didn't think much of it. I took 10 steps, and I went back. And I said, I thought it was Gurdjieff. I thought it was a Gurdjieff center. G.I. Gurdjieff, the mystics.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. It was Rajneesh, Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. So I met a couple people in there, and for 3 days they held me while I cried and cried and cried. I was just so disappointed that I had done everything that society told me was going to make me happy. Marriage, children, clinical practice, cars, boats, homes. And I was deeply unhappy. So I sold the business, and my wife said, "When are you coming back? You're going to go to India?" I said, "Yeah, when are you coming back?" "I don't know." So she said, "Can you divorce me?" I said, "I don't want to divorce you. I love you." She said, "I know, but if you don't come back, and who knows where, how am I going to start dating someone if I'm a married woman?" So I gave her everything. Everything we owned, I gave to her.
How old were your children?
I mean, they weren't diapers, but they were toddlers,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 3 and 6 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then I spent 6 months in India and came back.
Wait a minute. Details, please.
Did you ever work for the FBI? Because this sounds a little bit like that.
Yeah. Well, you went to India. Why did you go to India?
Well, as I just said, I had everything a man could ever dream of, and I was 30. I think I was in my Saturn return.
Yeah.
In astrological terms, and I was like 31 years old, and I had everything that should make me happy, and I was deeply disappointed that it wasn't giving me any kind of satisfaction.
Yeah, but why'd you decide on India?
Well, because I went into that storefront in Cambridge.
Right. So you went to India. Did you go to Pune? To Rajneesh's place?
Yep.
Okay.
6 months.
Oh,
6 months there.
So you were not only in India, you went to India to be in Rajneesh's place. Ah.
Exactly.
So how was that?
Wow. Well, that would take, in fact, I just had a call. I think it was it Friday? So I wrote a book about it. It's called Please Don't Tell My Guru.
Uh-huh. All right.
It's a comedy about being with Rajneesh. But it was in the early 70s, and we were doing, I think I did like 8 or 9 10-day residential groups. And we were doing Gestalt therapy and rebirthing and just every kind of therapy in India.
Pune?
And they're all English and German licensed therapists in their countries.
Uh-huh.
So it wasn't like a fly-by-night thing. I mean, these guys really knew where you were holding your self-inflated ideas of yourself.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, I would be like really cracked open, and then they'd say, "Okay, now you get 2 days rest, and you have to do another group." You don't have to do anything, but so it was kind of like boot camp to crush all of your illusions and see what is left. Then I ended up 8 years in Berkeley with the Diamond Heart School.
Diamond Heart School. What's that?
A.H. Almas was, I'm surprised you don't know that. What do they call it? The depth psychology of Sufism. Really remarkable training. Diamond Heart Approach, it's called now.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
So it was another way of looking at all the way you cherish your opinions and beliefs about yourself.
Yeah.
And
Katrinka tried to help a group, that Diamond Heart group, that wanted to have a thing here in Bali, and they had a lot.
I think because they have them all over the place now.
Yeah.
But the birthplace is Berkeley, and I went there. For 8 years, I was there 3 times a month and doing private therapy 3 times a month, and it was just remarkable. And it's like, but I did all these things. I did meditation. I did the Trappist monastery. I did all these trainings, and it still wasn't. It was like a baking bread, but I didn't have the right yeast. If you can follow that idea. So then
But the Diamond Heart, you were participating in that for 8 years. Was that more fulfilling?
Well, yes, but not enough to. So anyway, the lady who took me in it was in those days to become a student of this woman, Alia Johnson. She was one of the co-founders of the program, and so she died. And so she died of I think liver cancer. All of a sudden, they found it, and bam, she was gone. And so then I started looking for another teacher within the school, and nobody could fill her shoes, so to speak.
Oh,
And I just said, well, I guess I've gone as far as I can with the school.
How were you supporting yourself during this 8 years?
I'm a chiropractor. I had a nice business here in Marin.
Oh, cool. And you had a chiropractic business in Marin while you were doing that in Berkeley?
Yes.
Wow. Pretty cool. All right. So
then some years go on, and I'm kind of bouncing along, and it's like I didn't have the recipe down yet. And again, I like to go back to that metaphor of trying to bake, and I don't have the right yeast. I don't have the ingredients, the proportions to get the cake, the bread. And so this is 20 years, and a German woman I knew from Marin, and she said, Rico, you have to go to the open secret door. And I'm thinking, I don't know, I'm there. Talking to Trinity. And I just said, okay. And I went to the bookstore, and within 5 minutes of hearing this Zen teacher speak, I said, I don't know who this person is, but I want to find out.
All right. Rico, I want you to go back. I want you to go back and repeat. We had problem with connection. Go back to the point where you said you didn't have the yeast quite right. Up. Huh. All right. Are you?
And a friend of mine called me and urged me, a woman that I had known told me that at the open bookstore, she told me, and a few times, and I wasn't that impressed with the caliber of the speakers at this bookstore. And so she said, do not let your conditioned mind cheat you out of this precious opportunity. So I went. And it was the best decision I ever made in my entire life.
Now, is she the Zen person you were talking about?
Yep. I've been with her almost 22 years.
What's her name?
Sherry Huber.
Shelley Huber. Really?
Sherry, Cheri, Sherry Huber.
Oh,
she has like 26 books. 26 books. And the one that really hooked me was a book called There Is Nothing Wrong with You.
Yeah, Sherry Huber. Wow. What did she get you to do? What did she suggest you do?
Well, she didn't suggest anything, but there was a 10-day residential retreat up in Murphy's, up in the Sierras.
Oh, yeah.
And about 3 or 4 weeks later, I was there doing a 10-day meditation retreat focused on this workshop, There Is Nothing Wrong with You.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the beginning of a profoundly deconstructive investigation into all what I held and cherished to be true. And in fact, this morning I just did 90 minutes with her. Usually about maybe, 15 or 20 Sundays per year, we do these online computer-led workshops.
Now, you said you did it with her. Is she's alive?
Oh, yeah. She's 80 years old. And I mean, this lady still is running a skill saw and building and plumbing and doing electrical work. 80 years old. Nobody can keep up with her.
Oh, that is great. Where does she live?
It's well, they sold the place up in Murphy's because of the drought and the fire risk.
Yeah.
And all these mountain lions and bears were coming down looking for water, and so her retreatants were terrified. So she said, I don't want to risk lives with hungry bears and mountain lions. So they moved, and they have a place in Sequim up near Port Townsend, Washington.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a good area. Well, that's really neat. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, but at what point did you get to Japan?
Oh, that was in the 80s. That was like in 1981 or 82.
Well, let's hear about Japan.
Anyway, I lived for 6 months in Pune, India, in a very fashionable apartment. And I had a booming chiropractic business there.
Oh, really?
It was a flat of all Japanese people.
Oh.
And I became very close with a friend there, and we ended up going to Japan together. And he knew, you probably know him. What was his name? Yamada. Ruho Yamada. Who was sent from. He came to San Francisco to do healing work on Roshi, Suzuki
Well,
Roshi.
yeah, I knew him very well. You're saying actually he came to the Zen Center just to be a priest with us, and it turned out that he told Suzuki was very sick. He was dying. And he told Oksan that he knew how to do shiatsu, so he ended up shiatsuing him a lot. But so you met these Rajneesh people in Beppu. I stayed in a Rajneesh house in Tokyo. There were a lot of Japanese into Rajneesh, and a lot of them in California at one point. So you went to, but Ryo wasn't in India, right? You just went.
No.
You went to Beppu.
He was. His father was still alive, the master of the temple.
Yeah.
It was like a 1,200-year-old temple, like a training temple, and so that he asked his son to come back and take care of business. So he would be a priest by day and an old hippie by night.
Right.
So it was the perfect world because the days we could, I practice and it was great. It was a great, but it was cold. Boy, that's all I remember about it. It was like, it was like December, January, February, and March. Just, of course, there's no heat at all. It was just bone cold. So
how high? What was the altitude of it? Because that's down in Kyushu.
Well, it was it's Kyushu. It was sea level. It's right there at sea level, but
is that
it was
right?
just cold.
Yeah. Oh, really?
It was just cold, and there's no heat anywhere, and
it's northern Kyushu, but northwest Kyushu. Wow, far out. Well, so what do you remember about Ryuho?
Well, I guess his father was legally blind, but he could still paint these masterpiece ink scrolls. And I don't know how he did it. I would watch him in the afternoons do that. I can't remember his name, but he was 90 years old. And Ruho was slowly going blind also. So he was conflicted because he missed the party lifestyle after Suzuki died. He went to be, he was like a classic wild man hippie after breaking free of his Japanese repressive conditioning.
Oh, definitely he was. Yes.
So he came back to hand to take over the family business, so to speak, to run the temple and to take care of all the congregation. But he didn't like doing that.
Yeah.
So he liked his sake every night.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
do you remember his wife?
Yes, very Shirley.
Shirley, right? Yeah.
Yep, Shirley. So she was like a San Francisco girl, and she was like delirious and joy to have an intelligent American guy to talk to, which is me.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't interested in alcohol or drugs. That wasn't my way. So she and I got on famously, and we had to sort of put up with Rujo's drunken stupors every night.
Yeah.
Anyway, David, I have to jump. I didn't know you were going to call, but we can continue this another time if you'd like.
Well, let's continue it tomorrow.
Anytime. So I like late afternoons are fine.
Yeah, it would be, tomorrow approximately the same time. All right.
That'd
Maybe.
be great. All right. Anyway, it was kind of fun. I hope you could understand me, and you can make something out of this and do some editing or something. And
No, I won't edit it much. It's just pretty good straight. And
all right, I'm going to jump. Thank you, David. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
So it didn't work out for me to call him the next day, but after a little time, I did call back and we reconnected.
Ricol.
Hey, Rico. How you doing?
I'm okay. It's kind of hot here, and I kicked my asthma up, but I guess I'm going to make it.
Where in Marin are you again?
San Rafael.
Uh-huh. Huh. Yeah, nice place.
I've traveled to something like 55 countries, and I finally found my resting place. I really mean it. I never thought. I feel so at ease and settled here, where I was always jumping around and antsy and going to the next continent and adventure. I finally get it. I want to set some roots.
Yeah, that's the last place that Katrinka and I lived, was San Rafael, before coming here. Yeah. I had, Mike Murphy is he's the owner of Esalen Institute. And I had lunch.
I know him. I know Michael.
You know him. All right. I had lunch with him at the Panama Hotel, where this was years ago. Katrinka worked at the Panama, but that's the last job she had before we came here. Anyway,
I used to go there for lunch because they had or dinner. They had some beautiful a cappella music and singing and guitars.
Oh yeah, she did all the music when she was here. So I was having lunch with Michael, and I said, "How do you like San Rafael?" He said, "I think it's the best place in the world to be."
I had lunch with him though when he was still living in Mill Valley. I went to his home.
But
that was probably, I don't know, a good 30 years ago.
Wow. Was there
he
any...
wrote he gave me a book blurb for one of my books called Golf Between the Ears.
Oh.
So he was gracious. He never did that, but he did it as a favor to a friend of mine who kind of twisted his arm.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he's hard to get to. Yeah, that's pretty neat. So, look, we had a nice talk a few weeks ago, and, I wanted to talk some more because we didn't hit on, what you've written,
So, why don't you tell me about that?
Well, I think I can't remember the dates. The numbers are all fuzzy. You know what I'm saying? But I published two books. The first one is called Golf Between the Ears, and it was a story on this golf team in Fairfield, Iowa, where these kids were ranked beginners and they won their state title by using Maharishi TM meditation.
Oh, wow.
So it was terrific, these kids. So I spent 10 days with the kids in Iowa and the coach, and I thought I was going over there to be the elder in the community. I became the student. They taught me so much. It was terrific.
Mm.
Then that was well received. Then I wrote a book called Please Don't Tell My Guru about my adventures with the madman mystic Rajneesh Osho.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I have another book that's in, I don't know if Wisdom Publications are going to publish it. They're talking about it. My next book is called Hiding Out with the Enemy, A Zen Carpenter's Tale.
Mm.
And then I have another sort of memoir fiction about called Brave Man Slowly Wise, about how long it took for this man to wake up and not get killed in the process by doing the crazy, zany adventure sports.
Oh.
And then you can find it all on my website, Ricol Provasoli at what's it called? ME, RicolProvasoli.me.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'll be sure to mention that too. Right. Of course.
And in your last message, you said you wanted to talk about my brother, which is how I kind of got into Zen. My brother, Paul, I can't remember the dates. He was at San Francisco Zen Center, but I think he started with Reb Anderson. He and Reb were kind of like Dharma babies.
Uh-huh.
And and he died tragically.
Yeah.
And I think, what year was that? 1971, maybe?
Yeah.
I think it was 1971. And I was on a sailboat in Tangier, Morocco, when I got word. And I can remember it like it happened this morning. It was so vivid when I got the telegram. And I was both deeply saddened and ecstatically happy that he went so effortlessly. So I remember that day. And of course, it was really hard on his widow and child, Jerry.
Yeah.
And their Ananda. So.
Well, the what I heard is he was changing a flat tire.
Not quite. No, it's not quite. It's partial credit, partially true. So my understanding is he had worked for some years to get a monk sent from one of the Soto schools to Western Massachusetts, where he facilitated a new Zen center there, which I think is still operating, maybe Green Mountain Zen Center or something like that. So it was like the welcoming day festival for the new Zen master of the process. And
do you know who that was?
No, I don't.
All right.
But anyway, they were also getting they had a 3-week-old baby, Ananda Maya, and they were going to get some kind of blessing and welcoming, and they were on the way there or home, and he pulled over. He was apparently 30 feet off the paved surface of the road, and something was kind of sticking on his carburetor, so he went to open up the back of the Volkswagen Bug, and apparently he was getting back into the car, opened the door, and a 17-year-old girl was dead drunk and hit him. and he died pretty quickly after that.
Hmm.
So he didn't suffer, and Hope, his wife Jerry, suffered. But my response always was, well, he brought a lot of love and light into the world, and then it was time for him to go to the next adventure.
Mm.
And I still miss him. I still miss him.
Yeah.
But he was a profound influence on my life. In fact, this morning I was thinking about how my life would have changed if he was still with us. Because I think it was like in 1965, he came to our family home outside of Boston and gave me my first Zazen sitting lesson.
Hmm.
So he got me interested in it.
Well, before I have another question for you, but do you have anything else to say about Paul? Like, did he come to Zen Center like in '65?
Yes, yeah, at least that. I think he was one of the early students there.
Uh-huh.
He. What's curious about Paul is we both went to Holy Cross College. Kind of in those days it was a very small Jesuit men's school. Now it's co-ed, but very distinguished. And then he got into Johns Hopkins, and he was there one semester. He says, "I don't want to do this," and he really broke my father's heart. And he went out to San Francisco and just started Zen, and so he was really a motivated guy.
But you got involved with Rajneesh in India, right? In Pune.
Yep.
You mentioned that last time. I can't remember what you said. Can you elaborate on that some?
Jeez, boy. In fact, I have a twin brother. He and I are the Robert. We were born Robert and Richard, and so he's Bobby and I'm Rico. But we were just talking about our youth and our memories, and we were talking about courage. And I was telling him one of the most courageous acts I ever did was get on that airplane to go to India. Just took tremendous courage and guts to do it. It wasn't a picnic at all. I was like desperate. I was just drowning in despair. And so it was really, it was profoundly transforming. People think, oh, well, a lot of sex and drugs and, oh, boy, let's go to India. No, it was not that. It was like hammer on the rock being the ego. Bam, bam, bam. I mean, if you wanted to just make a joke of it and have a carnival time, you could. But it cost me so dearly. It cost me my marriage and the custody of my two young children. So I made the most of the time. But I think I did 12 or 13 10-day intensive residential groups. So many of the group leaders were from Esalen or British therapy centers, and it was very, very high-powered, no holds barred, take no prisoners, and go for broke. It was very, very powerful, just hugely powerful.
Mm.
And then it was the guy. I mean, it's almost as if he was intentionally creating a way to continuously break our fragile egos again and again and again. And one way he did it was he made us dress in bright orange and wearing a mala, wooden rose beads with his picture on it, all as a device to make us look like idiots. And I was, well, it's really true. And even today, I can't remember. I use, what are they called? Barber clippers, electric clippers. And I cut my own hair, and I've been doing it for years and years and years. And I keep it pretty short, and I hack away at my bushy beard. But dressing like that for 7 or 8 years or 9 years, you really learned firsthand to have a direct experience about being free from people's opinions of you. And like, I don't care what my hair looks like. So it was a huge device. And, yeah, so very, very grateful for that. And so then he built a commune in Oregon near Antelope, and his whole device was, okay, I'm going to promise you a paradise, and you think you're going to stay here forever. And we really made a paradise out of the desert. It was remarkable. All these environmental groups came to say, my God, we can't believe what you guys did. And then he turned us on our heads when he made himself such a hateful figure that he got, what they call deported, and the place closed down, and all of our dreams were crushed. And it was all a device. He was a mystic magician who kept pulling the rug out from under us again and again and again. So it's not like he was ever going to let us get cozy being disciples. And there's probably no group that's been more highly misunderstood, but that was his device. That was his intention.
Yeah. Well, I've known a lot of sannyas, and I remember when I was when I first went to Japan, I hung out with people who liked Rajneesh, and I stayed one night at a Rajneesh house in Tokyo, and they had me watch a video of him, and I don't know if you knew anybody at the Zen Center or anything, but there was a guy named Claude Dallenberg, and for years I'd go read to him once a week in a convalescent home. And one thing we went through was some Rajneesh. I read a book of Rajneesh's stuff. I enjoyed that. Did you ever have any experience at the San Francisco Zen Center?
But then I did quite a few sessions at Green Gulch. I was more into the Green Gulch thing than San Francisco.
Oh, well, you hadn't mentioned that. I had no idea. So when was that?
'80s. I would say the '80s.
What, 80
probably
what?
After, well, you're asking too much of this old man.
Okay. So in the 80s. Well, was Richard Baker there?
No, I met him. Yeah. But
So
it was mostly I can't remember Linda Kotz, is that her name?
yeah, Linda Ruth Kotz.
Right, and she was there, and then of course Reb. But I was just marked on my calendar on August 13th. There's a Reb is giving a Dharma talk, and he just turned 80, or he's about to turn 80 soon. And
really, Reb's going to turn 80.
Yeah, and so I have a book of Japanese Zen poetry for him. So I thought I'd give it to him. But I also did for years and years. He had another side shoot called No Abode, which was up in the Upper Cam Valley.
Right.
Like once a month we do a one-day sitting, and they do Dharma talks. So he's a great influence. Plus, I knew him socially quite a bit also. So we had kind of a fuzzy boundary between strict Zen student Roshi and Dharma pal.
So,
but yeah.
When did you first go to the Zen Center?
December 67.
Ah, and where did you go?
I think it was Bush Street.
Mm-hmm.
But we went to visit. We went to go. My twin and I were on college break, and we drove across the country to spend 10 days hanging out with Paul and tooling around San Francisco. And when we got there, it turns out they were all down at Tassajara.
Uh-huh.
So we didn't see him, and nobody thought about phone calls in those days. Phone calls were like calling the moon or something. Nobody calls cross country.
Well, it wasn't easy to call Tassajara.
Yeah. No, I'm talking even calling Zen Center.
Oh,
We never even thought of it. Nobody called cross country.
Uh-huh.
Unheard of.
Uh-huh. Oh, I remember you did mention that. Right. When was the next time?
David, I got to tell you, it's all a blur.
Uh-huh.
Let's see. I went back to school, and then I went to Europe, and then I entered a Trappist monastery, and then I got married and everything, and then I went to India, and then but I mean, I can't remember, but I think my participation in Zen got stronger in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now it's I'm just full bore with practice with Sherry Huber.
Yeah.
In fact, I was just talking to my twin brother about how there was have you ever heard of the Diamond Approach School in Berkeley?
Yeah.
Anyway, I was with them for 8 or 9 years, and Hamid, the founder of the school, said, you have to find a system, a school, a teacher who helps you crack the code, and the code being your resistance to unwinding and letting true nature arise. And so I tried 7 or 10 different platforms of practice until I met Sherry Huber.
Mm.
And it's kind of funny because she's the least traditional of all the practices I've been in.
Mm.
And she's one who certainly celebrates, I don't care what people think of me. There's been apparently some protest in traditional Zen circles that she has no credentials and no right to teach because she hasn't been, what do they call it? She hasn't had the Dharma transmission.
Mm-hmm.
She would say something like, well, you know what? You don't need no dang tradition. Like, if you get it, you get it.
Mm-hmm.
So she's my kind of girl.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I understand that. Yeah. Suzuki Roshi said there was a farmer in his area that was more enlightened than the priests around there.
In fact, right here, I'm in my kitchen, and I have a little quote from him. Suzuki. It says, moment after moment, to watch your breathing, to watch your posture, is true nature. There is no secret beyond this point.
Yeah.
So once you get the basic training on sitting, and then you just trust the process, and you have a guide, a teacher who's a guide to say, well, am I on the wrong track here? Oh, yeah, okay, I get it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Huh. When you were in Bempu, when you came to Bempu, you came with some guy you knew in India, and he sounded pretty interesting. What's that about?
He was. So in India in 1978, Rajneesh was very popular, and housing for Westerners was like scarce. It was really impossible. And I was there like my first day, kind of bewildered. And this Japanese guy looked like a prince, long, wavy hair, little goatee mustache, came up to me and bowed like a samurai. Says, "I have special room for you." I'm thinking, is this a joke or something? And I said, okay. I was up for anything. And so he took me to this beautiful compound with an armed guard. And there was like maybe 10 apartments in this beautiful building. And it was a flat with Japanese people. And I think there were like 4 bedrooms. And I was given a room for very little rent. And one of the roommates was a writer, and his name was Jun Hoshikawa. And he had written a very, very popular book about Rajneesh, the first book in a foreign language about Rajneesh. Mm-hmm. So he became a kind of a huge celebrity, which he never felt comfortable with. And anyway, we had some big adventures, and which I won't go into, but pretty wild. And then he invited me to come to Beppu with him because he had been hired to do a translation on Gurdjieff's Meetings with Remarkable Men. Mm. And I had spent 2 years in a Gurdjieff school in New York, so I had some handle on the topic. So, we spent 4 months there.
Where?
So, at the monastery in Beppu.
You mean at Riva Yamada's temple, at his father's temple?
Temple monastery, right? Yeah, his father's. Who was still there, but kind of kept to himself a lot.
Yeah. Oh, well, that was a phase for him. He went on to do a lot of things. Yeah. That's very interesting. Is there anything else you'd like to touch on? This sort of completes the stuff I think we didn't get to that I know of when we talked last time.
Well, this whole invitation kind of took me by surprise. So, it's. I did look at your website, at your list of people who have been interviewed on your podcast, mm-hmm. And I suspect most of them had stronger ties to San Francisco Zen Center.
Yeah, so, not everybody.
Well, anyway.
Most, yeah.
I'm not looking for any sort of acknowledgement, anyone. At another time in my life, I would have, but I think I'm really beginning to get a handle on the practice of emptiness. Mm-hmm. It feels so spaciousness of emptiness. So, I have some books. I don't care about books. I don't care about credentials. I care about inner spaciousness. Mm. And I thank my brother for taking me aside and introducing me to practice.
Mm. Yeah, you've had quite a varied experience with practice. Your way-seeking mind story is good. It's full of spice.
Yep. Anyway, David, I feel complete. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And next time you're in San Rafael, give us a yell and we'll go do lunch at the Panama.
Yeah, absolutely. I will do. Thanks a lot. It's been really interesting.
Right. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, David.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care.
Happy trails.
You too. Bye-bye.
So thank you very much, Ricol Provasoli. That was pretty cool path you've been on. And I'm glad you're so satisfied with where you're living and the teacher you have. That's really great.
I was just contacted today about somebody who's tried all sorts of different teachings and teachers. And I mentioned you, and I said, well, you know, I've talked to a number of people who've done that, and quite often they're rather satisfied with what, you know, they came up with later in life. So we'll see what happens with them. So he mentions that when Paul Provasoli went to the East Coast, he was going to help the opening of a Zendo. He thought maybe Green Mountain. Now, I see a Green River Zen Center in Massachusetts. But there was the Valley Zendo was started back then. And actually, Zen Center had something to do with it. It was started by monks of Kosho, Uchiyama, and in Japan. And Shohaku Okamura was one of the ones who came early on and practiced and taught there, and Fujita. But there was some other monks earlier, around 67, I'm not sure. I've actually got it on Kook.com. It's Valley Zendo in Massachusetts. It came about because Shunryu Suzuki had recommended to Dorothy Shock that she ask Uchiyama to send over somebody because he didn't feel Zen Center could spare an older student to go help her get a Zendo going there. Anyway, there's quite a history there with Shunryu Suzuki in New England, and this is all tied in with it. But it branched off from the Shunryu Suzuki lineage into the Uchiyama one and has been, man, it's just kept going. It's rather strict and I understand, but also, you know, has a very good reputation, and there's a lot of practice centers there, and it's one that has survived. Valley Zendo. Anyway, so thanks a lot, Paul. Really enjoyed it, and let's remember Paul's books. Please Don't Tell My Guru, about his time with Rajneesh in Pune, and Golf Between the Ears, about some high school students, the effect that transcendental meditation had on them in competitive golf. Okay. This has been a Kook audio podcast. I'm DC, Poobah of Kook Audio and Kook Archives, coming to you from sleepy Sanur with Dogette Bandita and dear, lovely Katrinka. And we're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.